Good evening, Liam. Right, let me just get this sorted out. Oh dear, no, it went a little bit too far there, Dibs. Right, good evening, Keith. Good evening, Bill. As you can see, I've got a little bit of a slightly different setup going this evening. Going to try out a different way of doing my stream so that I can actually read the text properly and see who's in the room. Right, we're working there. Everything's working there, and we're working there. Right, so the topic for this evening's live stream is going to be psoriatic arthritis. Yeah, I'm basically going to give people a little bit of an outline of what causes it and who can get psoriatic arthritis, because there's only a very few people that will ever develop psoriatic arthritis. It's quite a rare bone and joint disorder. It attacks the tendons, the joints, and the type I've got is very destructive because it can also attack the bones. So I'm going to go into that, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the medications that they can give you for it to try and treat it, slow it down. There isn't actually any cure for it as yet, although they are working on a cure for the psoriasis, which if they can do that, it will help with the arthritic side of things, yeah, because one triggers the other. Okay, just going to touch on a few bits and pieces. So, right, and if you've got any questions about this disease, just post them up in the chat, and if they're not too personal, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Right, psoriatic arthritis. It is a form of arthritis, and it's a form of arthritis that will only develop in people that suffer from psoriasis. So I've got a little patch. As you can see, I've got a little patch here on my elbow, comes up. I'm not sure. Let me just see. You can see it a little bit there. I get a bit of psoriasis on my elbow. I get a little patch behind my ear, and I get some on my foot. Now, the severity of the arthritis, it doesn't matter how severe your psoriasis is. That doesn't reflect on how serious the psoriatic arthritis will affect you. Okay, and as I say, only people with psoriasis need to have any types of concerns about this form of arthritis. It is considered to be a debilitating disease. They actually call it a disease. I don't like to use that term, but officially it's classified as a disease. I'm not sure, and even the specialists are not sure how long I've actually had this issue. Now, what I would suggest is if anyone, yeah, because there are lots and lots of telltale signs, yeah. If you suffer from psoriasis, there are telltale signs that will that could be a clue that you have got psoriatic arthritis. Now, for me, yeah, I was a fool. I was a fool, and this is one of the reasons I'm going to make this video today. Yeah, and I'm going to go into a little bit of depth on this, on some things. So I'm sorry if I bore people, but it'll give you a little bit of idea of what it all entails, and medications, and the future prognosis if you catch it in time. Now, for me, I had a really bad motorcycle accident, yeah, when I was in my early 20s, back in the 80s. And at that time, I was told by the surgeons and the doctors and everyone that attended to me, because I ended up basically in intensive care, yeah, on life support and all of that. Yeah, I did massive injuries internally. I broke multiple bones in my body, and yeah, I was in a pretty sorry state there. And I was told at the time, because of the extent of the injuries that I'd sustained in that accident, that that I could have possible problems, you know, with arthritis and problems with my bones and what have you later in life. Now, obviously, I learned to deal with the everyday niggling and the aches and pains from that accident. I learned to deal with it. And anyone that's had a long-term niggly type of pain, you learn to deal with it. You learn to, you know, block it out. Your mind blocks it out. So of course, when I got into my late 30s, maybe, yeah, late 30s, and just coming into my early 40s, I started to get issues in my hands, you know, especially if I was doing long distance riding. And of course, in that accident, I did a lot of damage to my hands, my wrists and my fingers. So I just put it down to that. Yeah. I had absolutely no idea, and pretty much every single person I've ever spoken to about this issue that suffers with psoriasis, that have then gone on to be diagnosed having psoriatic arthritis, they were as ignorant about this this form of arthritis. They were as ignorant as what I was about it. I'd never heard of it before. You know, you have psoriasis for years and years and years and years, and never once did I ever hear that there could be this form of arthritis that people like myself could go on to develop. Yeah, so I was ignorant. I was ignorant of it, and I just ignored the pains that I was getting in my hands, because it literally started in my hands. And I was totally ignorant of it, like most people are when they're, you know, when they're first told, "Oh, I think you might have psoriatic arthritis." What's that? Never heard of it. So I just put the pains, the numbness and everything down, the pain I was getting in my fingers and in my wrists. I just put it down, literally. I just literally put it down to my injuries that I sustained in my accident, yeah, in my big accident, you know. And then, you know, as I was going through into my early 40s, it started to travel. It started, then it went into this shoulder, which was another injury I sustained in my accident. Yeah, it went into the shoulder, and then it went into my neck, and then it went into the middle of my back. I fractured 2 vertebrae in my neck in that accident, and I fractured 2 more in my back at the same time. Okay, so me being me, yeah, I was told I was going to have problems later in life, yeah, with these injuries that I sustained in the accident. But then it went into my feet, you know, and I thought to myself, well, I didn't actually injure my feet in that accident. I fractured my ankle, yeah, but I never did any damage to my feet. I've never really damaged my feet in any way, shape or form. But then it went into my feet. And then the next thing I knew, my fingers started to swell like balloons on occasion, yeah, like sausages. You know, they'd swell up, they'd be thick like sausages. I had to stop wearing all my rings. I only wear 1 ring now. And years ago, I used to wear all the big rings and everything, the same as all the other bikers do, you know, and I had to stop wearing my rings. I just, you know, if once the fingers swelled up, you know, it was, you know, I had to have 1 ring cut off, literally, because it was strangling, you know, the finger. So yeah, now I started getting this, and I thought, oh, you know, this has got to be, you know, this has got to be down to all this shit that I went through with this accident. And then I started to become physically ill. It was, you know, again, then you put this down to, oh yeah, well, maybe it's because I'm not sleeping properly, because I'm getting pain in my bones and blah, blah, blah. And you start to try and self-medicate. Yeah. So there I was, you know, slinging normal over the counter, as strong as I could get over the counter painkillers down my neck. It wasn't helping. It wasn't doing nothing, and the condition was just getting worse and worse and worse. Now, fortunately for me, I had a really, really good group of people around me at the time, and I had a really amazing woman at the time too. And in the end, you know, after a lot of pressure, a hell of a lot of pressure from these people, I eventually relented, and I went to see my GP. Now, first thing my GP did was basically, he said, you know, where did the pain start? You know, all the sort of things the GPs do, yeah. You know, and in my hands, before they started getting all numb, the first problem was in my fingertips, right in the tips of my fingertips. Yeah, they were the first place where it really started to hurt, in the distal joints, in the tips of the fingers. Yeah. And he noticed all the ridging that developed on my nails and everything. And, you know, he said, I think you might have a condition called psoriatic arthritis. And he said, by the extent of pain that you're in throughout your body, he said, I think you've had it for a long time. So you know how it goes. You go for tests and you go for the scans and everything else. And I waited for the results to come through. And it's not like rheumatoid arthritis. When they do rheumatoid arthritis, they can tell in a blood test and all this stuff. Yeah, psoriatic arthritis isn't something that can be simply diagnosed from a blood test. It just can't. It's test after test after test. So I've gone through all of the tests, yeah, and the weight is now starting to fall off my body. Yeah, it started to affect me really bad physically. Yeah, and I was starting to walk with a really heavy limp because of the swelling in my feet and in my toes. And I noticed my toes were starting to curl under like that. So you can imagine trying to walk on the tips of your toes as you're walking, and obviously with the pain and the swelling in them as well. You know, and I'd started wearing these, they were like wedges that went in between your toes and everything to try and keep them straight while I was walking. That was something that the doctor come up with while I was waiting for all these results to come through. And eventually it did come back that, yes, you have got psoriatic arthritis and it's throughout your body. So it was in my hands, my wrists, in my elbow joints, in my shoulder joints. It was attacking where I'd injured my spine, where I'd injured my neck. Everywhere where I'd ever had an injury, it was attacking, but it was also attacking the healthy joints as well by now. So we're going over quite a period of time here. We're going over a period of months going through all this stuff. Yeah. So eventually it all came back and I was sent to see a rheumatologist at the hospital. Obviously he went through a whole rigmarole with a whole load of tests, and he basically come back with the same diagnosis as what my GP did. And it was a case of, we've got to start you on these medications. I was handed loads of leaflets about all these different medications that I was going to have to take to try and get it under control. And by now I was like a cripple. Literally, anyone that knew me at the time, I was like a cripple, an absolute cripple. And it came at a really bad time for me too. You know, I was going through a lot of big, hardcore emotional stuff. You know, I just lost a couple of mates, you know, that had just passed away, and it was really hitting home. And at this time, the rheumatologist said, you know, we've got to get on top of this situation. They put me on a drug, and I was pretty scared. I'll be honest with you, I was pretty scared about going on it. And it's a chemotherapy treatment, a drug called methotrexate. Now, I was put on really big doses of methotrexate, and I'm not joking. My beard fell out. I lost all the hair on the top of my head up here. All the hair on my body literally fell out. Thankfully, I kept it at the back. For some reason, it never took the hair at the back, but it all come out at the top. I lost my eyebrows. My beard fell out, and I was in a real state. I literally lost 2 stone in weight by now, you know, and I was literally like a walking skeleton. A lot of my friends actually were saying to me, you know, Dibs, you sure you haven't got cancer, man? You know, you look like somebody that's suffering from cancer. And, you know, and I did. I did look like somebody. I became a recluse. I didn't go out. I stayed indoors. I didn't want anybody to see me, you know, in the condition that I was in. I was very, very sick. But slowly but surely, with the hardcore medication that they put me on, they started to, you know, get a grip of the disease, and things started to look a bit better. You know, I was starting to see, obviously I wasn't just seeing the rheumatologist by now at the hospital. I was seeing an occupational therapist and a physiotherapist. So I was working with 3 different people at the hospital to try and get hold of this disease. It had really gotten hold of me. And my doctor said, he said, I think you've had this for a number of years, and had you come and seen us, and this is why one of the reasons I want to make this video, and I have to be very, very clear on this. If you suffer from psoriasis and you have any of the symptoms, yeah, like It will first come to the tips of your fingers, to the distal joints in your fingers. That's where it hit me first. It can hit you in your toes first as well. But if you start to get that, yeah, and you start to get aches in other joints in the body, for crying out loud, go and see a doctor. Yeah, because the longer you leave this to get it treated, the worse it will be. Yeah, and the more hardcore the regimen of medications will be to get a grip of it. Yeah, and it took a long time. It took a long time. I still haven't recovered. I show people when I've got a particular waistcoat I wear. Yeah, you can see when I wear this particular waistcoat how large I was. Yeah, and I have still never been able to put that weight back on. So if I can't stress enough to people, if you suffer from psoriasis, go and get it checked if you're getting pains in your fingers and your feet. Yeah, they're the first two places it'll get. So I lost all this weight. I turned into a recluse. That once that those hardcore chemo drug was over and done with, I started on another regimen. Now, this, so long as you catch it early, these are the type of medications they're going to put you on. Yeah, and they'll give you a whole load of pamphlets, and they'll outline all the side effects, because these do come with some pretty brutal side effects. Yeah, obviously the side effects do, you know, dissipate over time once your body gets accustomed to the drugs. But until your body gets accustomed to the drugs, you will have side effects. Yeah, you just have to grin and bear it. Yeah. Now, I take one of the medications, the ones I take the most of. If I've got them here, I usually keep them close by. I haven't actually got them by the side of me. I'd have shown you. I get big bottles like this. Yeah, and I take 12 of those a day. 12 of those medications a day, 12 of those tablets every single day. They're a drug called salosoprin, and salosoprin is an anti-inflammatory drug, and it's really important when you have this, yeah, to get the inflammation down in the joints. The inflammation causes a shitload of damage, and they have to get the swelling down in the joints. Now, I have to take these literally every single day. Every single day. I can't go a day without them. Yeah, when I'm in the climate in the UK. So I have to take 12 of those a day. And they're an anti-inflammatory drug. They do come with a whole host of side effects. I will, after this. Hi, Carl. Nice to see you. Once I've finished this stream, I will list all the medications that I have to take. Yeah, so you guys can go and check for yourself what these medications do. And as I say, if you suffer with this, go and get it checked straight away. Yeah, and regardless of what you might feel with the side effects, yeah, you must get on the meds. It's the only way to get control of it, or you will end up like I did. Yeah, and you really wouldn't want to end up the way that I did. Now, Carl, who's just come into the room, it's Carl Douglas. Now, he remembers what I was like when I was going through my first lot of treatments. Yeah, I was doing a lot of YouTube stuff back then. It was one of the things that helped get me through every day. But Carl was one of the people we used to be involved in making videos and stuff, you know, featuring other YouTubers. And if you go and look at some of the old videos, you can see how gaunt I was in them. You know, I owe a lot to people like Cole, because Cole was one of the people that helped keep my head above water. But yeah, so that drug is called salosoprin. Yeah, and as I say, I take 12 of those every day. I take 2 tablets a day of another drug, yeah, which is called hydroxychloroquine. Now, hydroxychloroquine comes with some really dangerous side effects. Yeah, they can be really nasty side effects that come with these. And the one that is of the most concern when you're taking that drug is blindness. It can cause a problem with your eyes, and it can cause you to go blind. Yeah, so not only do I have to go and see a rheumatologist, an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist, I have to visit the hospital twice a year, and they put the old drops in my eyes and everything, you know, to dilate the pupils and what have you, to, you know, basically check that this drug that I'm taking isn't damaging my eyes. Yeah, and hydroxychloroquine can damage your eyes. Okay, it can take the sight. But they do monitor this stuff really closely. So if you do ever get diagnosed with this, yeah, and they say, well, look, you're going to have to take hydroxycloroquine, yeah, don't stress it too much, because if you will be going to the hospital regular, and they'll be checking your eyes really close to make sure that it's not causing any damage to your eyes or your sight. If they see any trace, yeah, they'll switch you over to another drug, yeah. But that's the side effect that comes with that one. Yeah, that's the main side effect. The one with salosoprin for me is vomiting. Okay, I can just like that and that usually happens because my body's adapted to the amount that I take now, so it doesn't bother me now. But if they increase the dose, yeah, by any significant amount of that drug, which they do sometimes, if it shows in my bloods that that I'm showing a hell of a lot more inflammation in the bloods, what they do is then they will up the dose, and then of course from the side effects of it again, which that makes me literally, you don't go, oh, I feel sick, or no, oh. You could be talking, it's like that. So that's what can happen with that drug. And as I say, with the hydroxychloroquine, it can cause problems with your eyes. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever noticed, if you see me outside in the real world, I always wear lenses, tinted lenses. I usually wear these. Yeah, yellow tinted lenses. Yeah, and these ones that I wear for when I'm looking at my computer screen, they've got a tint to them as well. So I have to have protection on my eyes. But that's what comes with that. But as I say, but the fiercest drug out of the lot is the methotrexate, and that is a very common drug that they will get you on, yeah, to get control of it. Yeah, they'll also give you, people that suffer badly with psoriasis get given low doses, yeah, of methotrexate. Obviously, I've gone through 3 major bouts. People have followed me on my biker YouTube. You can go back through the history and you can see when I go onto these medications, I go into Mr. Recluse. I don't come online. I don't go on social media. I don't make videos. I don't do anything, because I get all gaunt, my beard falls out, and yeah. And when I'm starting on this stuff, people can usually tell. I have friends that comment in the comments, "Oh, Dibs, you're not looking right again," and they can see. They know it. They've seen me go through it so many times. But I've had to go through really big doses of going through methotrexate when mine flares up, it really flares up quite badly. On my neck here, I don't know if you can see it on camera, it's quite red. Yeah, that's psoriasis under the skin. That sits under the skin. It's one of the reasons I keep a beard on, to help, takes it away out of my sight, it takes it out of my sight. I don't like to see it myself when I look in the mirror. I'd rather, people say, "Oh, you look really old with a beard, you should take it off." But shaving, you see, as well, shaving, any damage to the skin, if you suffer from psoriasis, anyone will tell you that suffers with psoriasis, one thing that we don't like is to continually shave, because it damages the skin. And with some people, and I have to be that case, yeah, it will flare psoriasis up. It's just one of those things. It's the nature of the beast, basically. So, but those are the drugs that I have to take, and they are the most common drugs that they'll give you. What will depend is how early you catch this, right? Is how early you catch it. And this is why I can't stress enough. If you suffer with psoriasis and you start getting pains in the ends of your fingertips or in your toes, yeah, and you start getting like a sausagey, swollen feeling in your fingers, go and see your doctor, yeah, and say to them, "Look, I've got psoriasis. I want you to check to make sure that I'm not developing psoriatic arthritis. Okay, they won't look for it until you start telling them that you're getting the symptoms. So if you get the symptoms, talk to your GP about it, please. Don't be an idiot like I was and just put it down to past injuries and all this sort of bollocks, yeah? And I don't want to take medications because they're all poison and all this. Yes, I know a lot of drugs are poisonous to the human body, which is why we have horrible side effects to them. But in some cases, like with me, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of this camera speaking to you guys now, yeah? I wouldn't be able to get on an aeroplane and go and visit another country now had I not gone on to those medications. I tried not to go on to them when I was first told about all the side effects, and I read up on it, yeah, and I was adamant I wasn't going to take them, but I was just getting sicker and sicker, literally by the month, to the point when I looked like a walking cancer patient, you know. Now then, also, something else with this, you need to, and this is why I say getting treatment is really, really important. Anyone that's been in pain for a long time, yeah, if you've got an injury and it's constantly niggling at you, yeah, is depression. Now, pain depression is awful. It's an awful kind of depression, yeah, and a lot of people, and thankfully, you know, because I've stayed so positive with everything, yeah, and I've stuck with my med regime, even when I've been at my lowest, when I've had flare-ups, yeah, and I've had to go back on that evil drug again, on the high doses. I've always tried to stay really focused, which is why I used to make videos every single day, and I'd be constantly in the comments to keep my fingers moving, yeah, and it was to keep my mind away from that, yeah. Otherwise, you know, a lot of people that have this, they will end up on antidepressants. Yeah, and we all know where, you know, you start getting on antidepressants, and when you're on them for a long period of time, that then comes with its own problems as well. Once you've been on them for a period, it's damn near almost impossible to come off of them. So, but that's something I've managed to stay away from, and catching this early is absolutely imperative. You must catch it early, or you'll end up being fucked up like me. Yeah, and I wouldn't wish this. I'll be honest with you, right? I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Okay, this is a disease I would not wish on my worst enemy. Now then, I've gone through pretty much the meds, and again, I can't stress enough, if you've got psoriasis and you get the pain in your fingers and your toes, yeah, and your distal joints, go and see your GP. Okay, go and see your GP. As I say, anybody else that watches this video, I know it's a bit long and I'm dragging on a bit. If anybody that suffers with this, because I actually do quite a lot of work with people that have been diagnosed with this. When people are diagnosed, when they go to see the physiotherapy, the physiotherapist that I see, yeah, if they go to see her, or my occupational therapist, if they're a biker, the first thing they do is put them onto me, because only a biker can understand how this disease hits a biker, somebody that rides a motorcycle. You know, only we understand how it feels. So she sends them to me, you know, to talk through with them the medications, the treatments, and all the rest of it. Yeah, there is life with psoriatic arthritis. There is life. It just depends if you get the medications, they get the balance right, and you stay positive. You've got to stay positive up here. You must. It's important that you stay positive. If you start to let yourself get all depressed about it and everything, before you know it, it'll just grab you like that, and it will suck the life out of you. Absolutely suck the life out of you, and you can't allow that. You'll end up like I did to start with, and you really don't want to go down that road. I mean, this is year 9 for me. You know, this is 9 years I've been going through the treatments and everything else, you know, and I still haven't fully recovered from that first You know, I still haven't put on the body mass that I used to have. I used to have a hell of a lot more body mass than I've got now. I weigh 10.5 stone now. I used to weigh just shy of 12 stone when I was healthy. You know, I went right the way down to 8.5 stone at my absolute worst. It's not worth ignoring it. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, but I don't like going to doctors." And no, this you can't ignore this. You've got to get it treated, because if you don't, it'll finish you. You'll end up in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? Because it does. It's progressive. It just goes on and it just gets worse. And the longer it goes on, the worse it gets. And the more stressed you get over the pain, the more the inflammation kicks in. It's one of those things that if you catch it early, you know, the prognosis is really, really, really good. If you leave it late like me, you'll end up like me, all fucked up. And it really isn't worth it. I'm telling you, it really isn't worth it. Now, I've had a few people leaving a few comments here. I'm going to just quickly go back and touch on a couple. How does climate affect this? Well, for me personally, the British climate, yeah, if you watch my videos regular on my biker channel, you guys know every freaking winter I suffer. And you can usually tell how bad I'm suffering, you know, with this. You'll see me when I'm doing streams. I'm constantly doing this, constantly doing this. Yeah. That tells that tells you basically how my hands are feeling on any given day. Yeah. I'm constantly rubbing my hands and stuff constantly during the winter. It really does bother me. As soon as we get all into autumn, it starts. And it is relentless. It goes on right the way through the winter, and the colder and wetter the winter is, the worse it is. I wake up in the morning, yeah, and I know exactly what the weather's like outside. Yeah. I know exactly if it's raining, I know if it's icy, yeah, and I know if it's warm and the sun is out. I'm a walking barometer, basically, because of it. Members of my family called me the walking barometer. So, yeah. So, yes, climate does, which is the main reason I am so desperate to go and move into a warmer climate. Those guys, you people who've watched my videos when I've gone off on my trips to Israel to a much, you know, hotter, you know, climate, you can see how it affects me. I feel like brand new. I feel brand new. The pain just disappears from my body. The swelling in my joints goes down. And the person that has seen it from all year, when you were talking about over the space of a year, the different seasons of the year, is Tony, who I stay with the Jokers Bikers, the Jokers Motorcycle Club. You know, he sees me when I get off the plane, and you know, and I'm like, get off the plane, and I'm curved over like an old geezer. You know, when it's like, you know, early spring in the UK, he'll tell you the same. You know, I look like an old man getting off the plane. Within 3 or 4 days, I'm upright. Yeah, the swelling and everything all goes down. The same with my hands. I get back to the UK, and within about 3 days, yeah, it's back. It is back again. So. Yeah, so climate for me, it's not for everybody, but for me personally, it makes a freaking lot of difference, a hell of a lot of difference. I look better, I look healthier, I eat better, and the swelling in my joints goes down to the point where the drugs that I take to keep the swelling down, I don't even have to take them. You see, I don't even have to take them. The only problem is when I get back to the UK, I have to have a higher dose and get back the levels again. I suffer pretty bad, so it comes back after about 3 or 4 days. It starts the aching, and that starts to kick in. Summer in the UK, I'm pretty good. Like this last summer was pretty hot, so I felt pretty good with that. So yeah, climate really does, and for me, the hotter the climate, the better. And humidity doesn't really bother it at all, although for some people with the psoriasis, humidity does come into it, can really rear it up for people. For me, it doesn't. So the hotter the climate, and it doesn't matter if it's high humidity, the better it is for me, which is, as I say, this is the absolute main reason I want to go and move into a hotter climate. Somebody said, can I still ride a motorcycle? Yes, I can. But again, that all comes down to what the weather's doing on any given day. So if it's cold, yeah, I don't ride my motorcycle. Yeah. I don't ride my motorcycle at all. What was that, Greg? Yours flares up with humidity. Yeah, see, as I say, it can affect people in different ways. For me, humidity doesn't bother mine. Absolutely doesn't bother mine in the slightest. Pastor Aaron, am I diabetic? Do I have the same problem? No, I don't. I'm not a diabetic. Obviously, I have blood tests done regular as clockwork, and they look for all that type of thing. No, I'm not a diabetic. Don't have any problems with that. What I would say though is, if people, and if you yourself, you know, those of you that suffer from psoriasis, there are things I would strongly advise you try to cut out of your diet. Try and cut out junk food that is loaded up with sugar. Okay, and that doesn't matter whether it's that artificial stuff or whether real sugar. Yeah, I've cut sugar almost right out of my diet. Yeah, right out of my diet. I don't eat any junk food, and everything I eat is really good quality food. That's something you really have to watch. Some people and doctors say, "Oh no, you know, diet doesn't really affect it," but for me, it does. Sugar is something that really triggers it for me, so I avoid sugar. So you know, if somebody gives me a box of chocolates, you know, because I'm a chocoholic, so for me, it's pretty, you know, it's a bit of a downer. You know, I used to look forward to things like Christmas. I used to, you know, obviously get your normal Christmas presents and stuff, you know, but I used to get, you know, big tins of Quality Street and all this sort of stuff, you know, I'm a big chocoholic. Now I have to say to my family, don't buy me no sweets. I don't eat sweets. I haven't touched sweets in years. I cut it right out of my diet. And junk food as well, as I say, it's loaded up with artificial colours, preservatives and sugars. I just don't take it. It sets it off. And something else I would strongly advise people to do, if you're a smoker, yeah, you smoke tobacco, I would strongly suggest that you give up smoking. I constantly had my rheumatologist on my neck about stopping smoking. Yeah, constantly on my neck about it. You've got to give up smoking. The smoking is what it causes inflammation, and it does. It irritates it. And yeah, I gave up smoking eventually. After 4 years of him going in my neck about it, I gave up smoking, and I vape now. And I have to say, this is a lifesaver for me. I managed to give up smoking. I tried numerous times to give up smoking, could never do it. I went onto the vape and I've managed to do it. And I can tell you now, it's made a hell of a difference, to the actual condition itself, especially with the pains in the joints and stuff. It's made a hell of a lot of difference giving up smoking. So you must give up smoking. Scott Forrest, I have psoriasis, Dibs. Does it always turn arthritic? No, it doesn't. That's the thing. I get pain in my hands which have large amounts of scaling. If you're getting pains in your hands, I would seriously talk to your doctor about it. Yeah, I mean, the pains in your hands, definitely go and have a chat with your doctor and just get it done. Just for your own peace of mind. Get them to check out and get them to look for the markers for psoriatic arthritis. Okay, obviously with psoriatic arthritis, I've been told by people, you know, the specialists, it can feel a bit like rheumatoid arthritis. But yeah, I would, if you've got psoriasis and you're getting pains in your hands and also in your feet, yeah, I would definitely go and speak to my GP about it. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, there's no cure for this, what I've got. Although um, there's been a lot of study done, and they're carrying out tests now on a cure, literally a cure for psoriasis. Yeah. So, and I'll put a link up for that for people that suffer from psoriasis. Yeah. I'll put a link up for that after I finish the stream. Yeah, because they have been working on it. I think it's Cambridge University and a university up in Scotland, or some scientists in Scotland. They've been working on it, and what they basically found is they were looking for a cure for Alzheimer's, yeah, and Parkinson's disease, that type of stuff. And what they actually found was that it will 100%. They are more than confident that if this works, it will 100% put psoriasis into remission, cure it, absolutely cure it. So, and the psoriasis, again, is linked to this arthritis. Okay. And as I said, only people with psoriasis will ever develop this. It will help that as well. So it'll be of benefit for myself. Yeah. You know, so it would be a benefit for myself, because when my psoriasis flares up, it flares up everything else. So, you know, one flares the other. So it could be beneficial for me too. But if you suffer just from psoriasis and it cures the psoriasis, you know, hopefully it will prevent you from then going on maybe at some stage to, you know, prevent you from getting psoriatic arthritis. Bill Colston, thank you. I must visit my doctor. I do have some of these symptoms. Yeah, if you suffer from psoriasis, go and speak to your GP. Yeah, you know, it's very important that you do. You just don't leave it, because the longer you leave it, if you've got the same as what I've got, it comes in 5 different variants. Yeah, and as I say, I'll put links and everything down when the stream's finished. I've got what's known as psoriatic arthritis mutilants with overlap, which means I've got the most destructive one, yeah, which distorts the bones, and I also got overlap because I've got the other 4, yeah, types. I have I have signs of those too. So it's I've got an overlap, which is why I have so much. You can get it symmetrical and asymmetrical as well. So it might just attack one side of the body. For me, it attacks both sides of the body. But yeah, that's, if you do suffer from anything like that, I would suggest you go and do. Now, stress as well. Stress plays a massive key factor in this. Yeah, a big factor is stress. So if you get stressed about shit, you've got to lower your stress levels. You've got to try and live a kind of like stress-free life, or live a life with as little stress in it as possible, because stress will trigger it as well. So you need to stay on top of that and try not to, you know, if there's stressful stuff going on in your family. Sometimes for me, you know, if there's something going on in the family that would cause me stress, I have to try and ignore it. Yeah, because it can have an adverse effect on the condition too. So they're the things you need to avoid. Yeah, just as I say, just, for me, sugar is a catalyst. It sets it off. Smoking, I would suggest, if you smoke and you've got psoriasis, even if you've just got the psoriasis, I would suggest you stop smoking. If you've got the arthritic side, definitely stop smoking. If you're showing signs, any of the symptoms, yeah, obviously, like I say, I'll put some links down in the description. You start showing any of those signs, go and speak to your GP as quick as possible. Now, I know